All right, everybody. How long do we wait for Al before we get things going? Because it's 10 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and I was told to start the stream, but he's not here. At 5 minutes, I know we're supposed to just leave, right? And no show today. So let's just plan on doing that, I guess.
All right.
All right, Al is on assignment once again. I'm Ryan Joy, and I'm here with the whole cast of characters for episode 39 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast, powered by the Eastern Observer. All right, everybody, we're going to hot start the show today. We're going to talk quickly and get everybody's rating on the Royal Rumble. We're also going to talk about the Dusty Cup real quick. And then once that's done, we're going to get into our standard agenda. We're going to main event tonight's show with a full discussion on the Royal Rumble and Monday Night Raw. We are going to start the show with what I've mentioned. Gary's going to tell us how Trent Seven's going to cut weight. The Empire wins 2 big matches at New Beginning, and Travis will help us break that down. AEW does Beach Break in Jacksonville. The Tommy Dreamer 50th birthday memorial title shot. What does Scarlett see in the tarot cards? Watch out, Santos Escobar. Royal Rumble, main roster shenanigans. We continue the countdown on Al's top 30 WrestleMania matches, and we curtain jerk the show with our thumbs up, thumbs down, or the bar on the Royal Rumble. So, Travis, start with you. I think you gave it a thumbs up on my show, but we've got time to think about it. So, still thumbs up?
Yeah, we're still going to give it a thumbs up. I thought the show it outperformed my expectations, I guess. And I think that last year's Rumble kind of kept those expectations low. So I think last year's performance helped this year's performance along. But overall, I thought the show was good.
Okay. John Smith.
Unfortunately, I'm going to go with thumbs down because I thought it was a little too predictable as far as the singles matches were concerned. And, the Royal Rumbles were a little bit chalky, in my opinion.
Okay. John DeConnie.
I'll go about North by Northwest here. I can't give it a full thumbs up because I really didn't like the choices for the Rumble winners, but I left the show happy overall. So almost a full thumbs up.
Okay. Gary.
I'm going to go thumbs up because I vaguely managed to stay awake until 3:45 in the morning to watch it here in the UK. But no, I did. I liked it. Apart from Pete Rosenberg, I'll forget that happened. But no, I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the matches. I thought that the matches, particularly actually the Rumbles, I did like the men's one especially.
Very good. Well, stay tuned toward the end of the show. We're going to go back into the Royal Rumble and talk about that in more detail. And before I send majority of these people backstage, I do want to just get some different opinions on the Dusty Cup and see who people think are going to win. And I'm going to start with the women's bracket. And so I have that up on the screen. We're down to 4 teams. So we'll go back around the other way this time. Gary, who do you like in the overall tournament here?
I'm going to go, here's one again. Here's another left field one, as we said. I'm going to go Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter to win.
You're just trying to appeal to these Jersey guys. John DeConnie?
I'd love to say Casey and Caden, but I'm going to go Dakota and Raquel. I guess they're putting a pause on Raquel's, we would assume, eventual shot at EO. So I guess this keeps her in front of our mind. She gets her hand raised again, and then we can get back to that.
All right. Makes sense to me. John Smith?
Well, this just shows you anybody could win because I'm going with Shotzi and Ember Moon. And so that's 3 guys, and that's 3 different opinions so far.
Well, I will say my wife is also she's not on the show, but she's in the Raquel Gonzalez camp. So, Travis, where are you?
I'm going to stay with John Smith, and I'm going to say the Shotzi Ember Moon team. I think they were the only ones that had members that were in the Rumble, and both of them were there. So that tells me that the Big Show has faith in them doing that, and putting the first one on those people and seeing where they'd go makes a hell of a lot of sense.
So I picked Case. I think they're the only tag team out there. But since all of you guys picked up those teams and nobody picked out Candice and Minnie Hartwell, I am going to support indie wrestling because I think we need to support indie wrestling. So, all right. And then on the men's side, we still have a number of teams here. The field's not wide open, but there are quite a few teams, and we'll start back going around the other way. Travis, who do you like in the men's Dusty Cup?
I'm going to say Grizzled Young Veterans. I think it's just their time. I like that better than anything else. I think Cole and Strong and Thatcher Ciampa is going to be a barn burner and just a beating, and I think they're going to come out of there too bloodied to be able to put up much of a fight against Young Veterans. And I don't like anybody on the right-hand side of the bracket beating them, so that's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, John Smith, Grizzled Young Veterans have been your pick since the very beginning. Has anything happened to change that? Like the formation of Thatcher and Ciampa?
Not so much. I mean, I think they'll make it to the finals either way. I could see them giving it to MSK somehow, just the way they've been booking them lately and the way they've been showcasing them. But I'm still going with Grizzled Young Veterans. I give it like a 90% chance.
Okay. John DeConnie, John Smith stays with the Grizzled Young Veterans. He has given no chances to the Rascals.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm right there with. Not unfortunately, because I have nothing against the Grizzled Young Veterans, but I don't know them as well. But yeah, until I see something that shakes me otherwise, they seem to be the ones that they are pushing front and center.
All right, Gary, shoes on or shoes off? What do you say?
I think it'll either be Thatcher and Ciampa or Wild and Mendoza or the Vets or MSK. I think are going to take it, to be fair. But I am going to go. I'm sorry, and it does pain me to say. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to choose the Vets. It's going to have to be shoes off. I honestly do. They are brilliant. I think they got the final last year, if I'm right.
Yes.
But no, I think that they're my pick. They're going to go the whole way this time, I think.
So, Gary, you picked Grizzled Young Veterans and you named off all these other teams. I guess there's absolutely no chance for the Lucha House Party in this situation.
No, unfortunately not. They're the one team, very sadly. And the same with Cole and Strong, because in theory they're still in at the minute too. But no, I'm going to go Vets are going to take it.
All right. And I agree. I think Grizzled Young Veterans, which goes to show you probably we're all going to be wrong. So something else will happen probably.
It'll be the Lucha House Party.
Yeah.
I'm positive that they're watching this show and they're going to swerve on purpose. They don't want us to all sound smart.
If Lucha House Party, if they had won those tag titles last night, I would have said they definitely have to win the Dusty Cup, but they did not. And so before I let everybody go backstage, and it's just me and Gary to do NXT UK. How does Jim Ross like his coffee, guys? Stone cold, stone cold, stone cold. All right, I'll see you guys in a minute. There we go. Let me adjust the. I have these temporary moments of genius when it comes to humor, and tonight's not going to be one of those nights. But I will ask you, Gary, what did Hulk Hogan ask in arts and crafts class? What you gonna glue, brother?
Oh.
You know what? It's not gonna get better from here. So just, hold tight. But this is good material that people can use later on. On the subject of humor, Jordan Devlin kicks off the show last week, talking about he's the best cruiserweight. He wants new challengers. He wants the best challengers, and he got a special guest to come out and talk to him, Gary.
Yeah, Trent Seven appeared. I'd say with Trent coming out, I do think, as I say, when he was saying about it, he'll get down to 205, and obviously it'll be a long-term storyline, not quite like Matt Hardy when he was trying to get down, but I think it'll be one of those things that Trent will be trying to get down. Maybe he'll just shave his moustache off. That might take the 10 pounds off, because I know in theory he's announced at 216 or 215. I think I know they were mocking him about 30. I mean, I actually had a thought, and I don't think it'll happen, but with all the stuff that's been happening on the main roster NXT with Kurt Stallion getting his match and so on, and with the whole thing about if you get beaten down again, blah blah blah, and all that, Legado being kicked out and stuff, I was thinking that they could be in the ring and Kurt Styling gets beat down again and they go, it wasn't us, and it pulls back and Jordan Devlin's there for his championship versus championship. The only thing is then it means that this storyline's redundant. So I think when they announced this storyline, I thought, oh, there goes my great booking idea. But I find it interesting. I wondered what they would do with Trent Seven next, and it's an interesting way to bring him into this.
I noticed when he came out that I think it's intentional that he had this like really puffy coat. I think he's already dropped the weight.
Yeah.
And I think we have an open challenge this week, and he's my pick to answer. I think he's made the weight.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll either be him. I think they may hold it off for a week or two, and maybe they'll hold it off. I know there was a special that was hoped to be planned in a month or two, that they might hold it off slightly. But I'm with you. I mean, he did look when he came out, much like when Sha Samuels debuted a couple of weeks ago. When he came out, my first thought was, oh, he's trimmed a wee bit. Mm-hmm. Not that he was ever. I mean, he was never like King Kong Bundy, like, but he. Sorry, John. But he was never like massive. But you kind of looked and thought, okay, you've started to trim a wee bit here. So
yeah. Well, you have Jordan Devlin picked, and whoever answers the challenge, Trent Seven.
Yeah. I think it'll be. I do think it'll be somebody else that might end up, and not quite be Jack Stars, but I think it'll be and somebody else will come out, and then when they'll say, "I told you I can beat everybody," then Trent will come out and go, "Here, I'm down to 209 here, big boy. I'm coming for you."
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. They could do that. Yeah. Each week he's down in a pound. Yeah, that makes sense. the big build. So they also had a whole bunch of signings. Of course, they announced Mako Satomura on the show. You've been talking about signings for a long time, and we've seen Sha Samuels, and now we talked about Mako, and we've got William Regal's son is in there too. So bunch of new faces for NXT UK. Yeah,
and then there's a couple other ones who, as far as I'm reliably informed, haven't quite been announced yet. One of the guys I was talking to, who I was told was in, and he wasn't saying he was or he wasn't, but when I was talking to him, he was like, yeah, like we'll just kind of see. So if he comes in as well, he's quite a big name from the local scene. So they are making a few signings. It almost looked like when they did the restart in September time, it was like, okay, we'll keep the talent pool that we had, will be fair to them. But now that they're going on, they're like, okay, this is here to stay. Let's freshen it up a wee bit. And as you say, bringing those ones in is going to freshen it up a bit.
You think, I mean, it seems like the way they led into this announcement about Mako was Kaylee Ray promo. And do you think that Mako goes straight to Kaylee Ray, or do you think she's going to have, I mean, she may have a couple of squash matches or something, but do you think she generally goes straight at Kaylee Ray or at the beginning?
My only worry is if she goes straight for it, you kind of go, right, she has to win the belt. And you're kind of going, on the other hand, you wouldn't, I know she's in as a player coach, so to speak, but you wouldn't necessarily want, and if Kaylee Ray went over and beat her, more power to her. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things, I can't quite decide what's best. I think she might come in, as you say, have a couple of squash matches and then go, right, I'm coming for you. And so maybe if Kelly has one more title match, maybe a month or so down the line, and after that, Mako comes in and makes the move. So,
yeah, and of course, doesn't necessarily know when she's actually going to debut. So it could be a minute from now. So Ben Carter wrestled on the show. Sam Gradwell, you got a win there.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's good to see Ben Carter. Every time I do see Ben Carter, you do kind of go, right, fair play, Hunter. You got him here. I know he was being touted about everybody wanted him, but they've got him. And I say I genuinely love the quebrada, or whatever way we want to call it, into that reverse DDT off. I've seen him do it twice, and every time I just sit and go, oh yes. He is crisp. Everything he does is smooth, and he's only a few years in. I mean, he's not wrestling all that long, relatively speaking, but he is smooth, like strawberry ice cream, as Vanilla Ice would have said. But he is like, everything he does just looks great. And poor Sam Gradwell ends up getting his head kicked in every time. He can't keep himself out of it. But
Gary, we always talk about you being a ladies' man on this show, but you've dropped in some Vanilla Ice, and I heard a ho 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 Santa Claus chuckle there. So I think you're working on the hearts and minds of everybody. I think
That's it. What can I say? I told you that's like the total package. That's what it is.
We have Gary here to win over that key demographic. So you brought up Shaw Samuels earlier. He's not going to be Ed Harvey. He faced Josh Morrill. He got a win in what I believe Nigel McGuinness called a dirty sleeper.
Yeah, because I was looking at it, I was like, oh, he's put him in the Cobra clutch. Oh no, he's got a dirty sleeper. Yeah, so he called it the dirty sleeper. And I have to say, because Shaw was in, I thought, okay, but there was just before the match when they showed him backstage talking to Noam Dar. Mm-hmm. Just before it as well, before he had the match. And I loved that because he kind of go the whole way through, in NXT UK, nothing happens by accident. They're very, very good at building things up. And you saw them talking, and I know they know each other from Insane Championship Wrestling and stuff. But when they did that, I thought, okay, something's going to come from this. That's going to mean something. Probably 2 or 3 weeks down the line, this is going to mean something. And I love that. So they gave him a good win, a good victory. And as you say, they tried to put the move over big. So I think it's obviously something that he's going to use primarily moving down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Ilya Dragunov, I think, you brought up to me a couple weeks ago when I was in this seat. You think he's going heel. It's hard to argue that point now, I think.
Yeah, you can see it. And I think it's a great character development for him. As I say, I wonder what they would do with him. And when they did the interview backstage and he was like, oh, I didn't mean to, and I wasn't really sure why I did it, and you go, yeah, okay, again, it's going to be every time where he'll do something and he'll crack up and go too far and then try to say it didn't mean it, and then some poor sod is just going to get a hammer and he'll go, yeah, I meant that, this is me, so what are you going to do about it? So
I think he's going to be a nasty heel. I think he's going to be really nasty. So the other thing is we have one of these angles you're talking about, Rampage Brown and Joe Coffey kind of rubbing angles and elbows in the back. That's a match I think we want to see for sure.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you saw them, they were both very pally and sort of chatting about it. And it's like, oh, I'll come for you, and you could see it. And that I watched it and went, that's a match I would want to see. And I'm not saying I never thought of that because sometimes like. When you get two big heavy hitters that say they're good or bad, and I was going, okay, how would it be? But just that, honestly, that 30 seconds of them chatting backstage, I watched that and went, this would make me interested in that match. You could see them again, just planting the seeds. And so over the next week or two, that is really something I would like to see them move towards. I think it'll be a great match.
Yeah, I mean, that 15, 20 second, 30 second clip we saw, they showed chemistry there. Yeah. So, and you think, we've seen Rampage Brown a few matches now. We've seen Joe Coffey a whole bunch on the UK brand. If maybe that bodes well for good chemistry in the ring too. Hopefully so. I think they're matched up very well. Coffey's probably a little faster. So, tag team elimination match main events the show. Pretty Deadly gets the win. They're going for Gallus. We don't have a date on that, but. Yeah, Pretty Deadly outlast the other 3 teams. Yeah,
they were my pick. That was what I sort of vaguely what I thought would happen. And I know obviously Eddie Dennis was banned from ringside, although in the end he did reappear and cost Andrews and Webster the match. Although, interestingly enough, I mean, and I'd be interested to see how they do it because his team, The Hunt, obviously had already gone, but he did it with Pretty Deadly being there. And many months ago, Pretty Deadly were the one that he implied he was linked with before he went with The Hunt. And now you're kind of going, okay, is he going to be with both of them? And again, it's those wee things that you can look back 3-4 months ago and say, oh, that was a good thing. You could see that little tie-in.
What a weird stable that would be. The Hunt.
It really would be. I have to say, though, I genuinely loved the whole way through the fact, and I know they were being a bit funny and a wee bit like, oh, ho, ho. I'm not saying like NWO when they were watching it, but when Gallus were sitting off to the side with their popcorn and their drink and watching it all going on, it actually did make you think, okay, they're the champions, they're scouting what's coming next, and it made you actually believe that you're going, they're doing this purposely, they're really out here to say, right, we're going to watch you so that we know what we're coming up against. So it made you feel that they cared about all those teams as well. So that the whole division then was caring about what was going on. So it was really, really good to see that.
Absolutely. Well, we have one more thing to talk about, and that's going to be one of our matches for next week. Zaya Brookside, Nina Samuels. Neither of them have had a singles match in 2021 yet, but we've had a pretty long story leading up to this. So what do you think of this match, Gary?
Yeah, it'll be a suitcase on a pole match. I do think it'll be good. I hope I have fingers, toes, hair on my bald spot crossed, everything kind of that Zaya Brookside takes it. I honestly think that she has something. I've seen her wrestle before in Belfast, and she's good and she's improving, but she has something. I'm not going to say like when Bailey came into NXT at first, but she has that young, sparky thing about her that you could just go, do you know what? She could be the girl. She might not win all the time. She might not be champion all the time, but you could really like market her for young girls, especially to really get behind. And so I would love to see them put her over and just put a bit of steam behind her and really build her up into something big on our brand. But it should be a good match.
Yeah, she's very, very likable. I know. She's Karl's her #1 fan, so hopefully he'll be insufferable next week if she doesn't get the W. So I hope for your sake that Zaya Brookside pulls through for him. All right, Gary. Well, you were thumbs up on the Rumble. I think we had a good episode of NXT UK last week, and this week should be no different. They're always good.
They are always good. So for everybody who is watching this, genuinely, if you have that spare time, go watch it. It is well worth the watch. It's always a great hour. It goes very quickly, and you will absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
It is Gary endorsed, and he's crossing all his fingers, toes, and the hairs on his bald spot even to get you that you will go watch the show. So, Gary, I'm going to send you back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I should talk soon.
Absolutely. And we bring in Travis. Let me update his nameplate. There we go. Travis, welcome back.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate being here and pinch hitting at any time.
I couldn't believe you were the thumbs up guy, and John Smith heavy thumbs down on the Rumble.
I know, and I'm the only guy on here that's not going to talk one drop of WWE wrestling. So that kind of tells you how that brand's going, I guess. Maybe.
Well, it depends, because I have a question for you.
Oh boy, here we go.
What did Devon tell Bubba when they worked at McDonald's?
I don't know.
Oh, Bubba, test the fries.
Test the fries. I thought you were going to say get the tables, like wash the tables.
Test the fries. Test the
fries. Okay, very good.
Yep. So just like this morning, we shouldn't bury the lead, and we should bring up the Jon Moxley thing right away. We've got Jon Moxley in Kenta, February 26th for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship.
Yep, it's finally going to happen. I mean, Mox has had that belt since Wrestle Kingdom. He took it off of Lance Archer last Wrestle Kingdom, so he's been carrying that thing around for a long period of time. Lights went out in the empty arena there, and off he went. And Kenta tried to go to sleep, and then Mox hit him with a Death Rider, which I'll change the name of that in our next segment. So we're going to see this thing happen. With all the stuff that's going on in Mox's life, it feels to me very much like this is a Kenta win coming. But boy, man, going into Wrestle Kingdom, coming off of G1, it felt like Bullet Club was confused. They were kind of on life support. And in the next couple of weeks here, we could see straps galore on members of Bullet Club, making a real big difference with the exception of maybe the two biggest belts. So it's an interesting, everybody on Bullet Club wearing a Bullet Club shirt these days is doing pretty well as far as the gold goes. So
absolutely. We had the big show this past weekend, and I'm going to talk about that. Then we'll get to Jay White after. But Great Khan beats Tenzan. Mongolian Chops are no more. So that's in the rear view. And then we have Will Ospreay beat Kojima in the no DQ match. So
yep.
Empire on top.
Empire on top finally. They came into the thing just pounding on Okada, and I thought that they were going to be just shoot themselves like rockets out of the stadium, and then they just kind of got buried the last couple of months. So now they finally put these nearly octogenarians away, both of them in singles competition. So now we can hopefully move on to something else, and it looks like that's going to happen too, at least from Okan's perspective.
Yeah. Tanahashi's the new never openweight champion. He defeated Shingo Takagi in quite a long match, 36 minutes. Last 5 minutes were really good. But now Great Okan is all over him. So there you go. There's another.
Yeah, Great Okan's all over him. Not only that, but he's got Mongolian chops that he can go to. So
that's true. It's
a lot coming.
And then Jay White comes back. So Jay White dispels all the rumors out there that he might actually be done with New Japan. He comes back, puts himself in a program with Ishii right away to kind of get revenge for getting pinned at New Year's Dash. And now, based on the show this morning, big challenge open for the 6-man championship. So like you mentioned, Bullet Club could have most of the gold. Soon.
Not a direction that I really saw coming. I felt like this was going to kind of spiral into a Jay White Ishii program, and then we were going to, turn into a belt thing. But then after this morning show, it becomes clear that God and Jay White are going to challenge for the never open 6-man belts. And he went on quite a rant because one of the 6-men that was in the elimination match that he was in, where Bullet Club stomped on him, they were only 2 belts. And he really talked to the crowd about how they don't even respect the titles enough to bring out all the belts. So he's standing in the ring without a belt. GOD's got 2 belts on their shoulders. And they went on to carry on that a little bit more and talk about how the real Bullet Club is really doing work these days. And yeah, it's a new Jay White. Jay White says his era is not over. It's ready to go. He's back and he's motivated, and he's on a bit of a tear and pretty aggressive. He pulled up Yoshihashi a couple of times from a pin just to decimate him again. So they were all left laying. Like, Chaos was not in good shape at the end of that elimination match at all.
No, so we don't have a match date for the never openweight championships yet, but
no, we don't. And looking at the calendar and stuff like that, I think there's an outside shot that we might see it slotted in. There's a 6-man match that's got a lot of the contenders there on the 214 show, which would be a nice Valentine's Day treat for me if it happens. So we'll see. That would be the road to the Castle Attack, which I believe is their next big show. That's looking at the schedule and stuff like that. That's the only place where I could really see it scheduled in. It's a Cork Hall match. Jay doesn't do a lot of the smaller venues and stuff like that. So Cork Hall, it'll be a good crowd to have that happen.
Yeah. So that's New Japan. MLW has a show this week, and the main thing on the show is the Baclays brawl between Hammerstone and Mads Kruger. It appears to be non-title, but that's the match that they've been building up. Hammerstone is probably the next big challenger for Jacob Fatu, so he's got to get through all the Contra. So I think he'll probably plow through Mads Kruger here.
Yeah, I think it might be close. Mads kind of a newer Contra member, like they're kind of building up some steam. So I don't think I don't think this is going to be a squash, and Mads is just not sized to be squashed. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think Hammerstone versus Fatu is the next big thing you're going to see. It's interesting because then we run into this 2-belt challenge again because they both are holding titles. But yeah, we're bare knucklesing it. So we'll see if it's shot in the arena or outside of the arena or how they're going to go with it.
Most pro wrestling matches do have bare knuckles, which I noted was like, illegal bare knuckle street fight is basically the way it's described. But typically there's closed fist is illegal, although that's
out the window
rarely enforced if you just ask Lacey Evans.
Sure.
Other stuff on the show, Buku Dao and TJP facing off against Los Parks. And then you have Jordan Oliver going against somebody from the Sentai Death Squad. So a couple of other things on the show. It's an hour. It's your Dynamite and NXT pre-show. Put that on while you're cooking dinner.
Yeah, exactly. It goes live on YouTube at 7:00. It's an hour long. You can have it on in the background, or like if you're just warming up for either one of those other 2 shows. And you're going to see good wrestling. There's some goofy stuff. We're going to see some Lawler Island stuff go on, and there's some issues going on with the actual company itself that they're.
I don't hear you, Travis. I'm going to bring in the Johns.
Kind of laying out some.
Oh, there we go.
How about now?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So we've got weather out here, so
Yeah, not surprising. Well, let me do this and do that. Make your point that you were making. These guys were about to come in anyway.
yeah, I lost my train of thought. So
Yep, no worries.
there, but
Bukudao and TJP versus Los Parks.
I got John's plate and he's got mine though.
Stand by. John Smith, John DeConnie. Nope.
Rookie move.
One more time.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah.
All right. So Gary stole my thunder. If you guys are looking at the chat, my next question was, why does Mick Foley buy supermarket brand cola? Because he always goes for the cheap pop.
That might be the greatest wrestling-related dad joke of all time.
And Gary stole it from me. He's probably on the webpage where I got all of these. So we're going to talk about New Year's Smash. Or not New Year's Smash. We're going to talk about Beach Break. And just to give people an update, because these are points for these matches. Here are our overall standings. John DeConnie back where he likes to be, on top of the universe, 655 points. Went 4-2 at the Royal Rumble. Karl dropped to 3-3. The rest of our married men achieved 4-2 status. So just Al, who was undefeated in 2021 up until Royal Rumble, he did the worst. So,
yeah, when it mattered the most, he went 3-3.
Yeah. Those are the
just
breaks.
goes to stand. We all go back to the back of our baseball cards, even in pro wrestling, we'll pick him at the end of the season. So
There you go.
we are who we think we are.
Just to let people know about the scoring for Beach Break. 5 points for an AEW title match. We don't have one. 3 points for all other title matches. 1 point for non-title matches. Interpromotional matches get 2 times the points. And we do have one with Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. And if you get everything right, it's a perfect pay-per-view. So we're going to do Beach Break. We're going to intersperse. We're going to talk about what happened on last week's Dynamite. But we're going to make a pick right away. Last week on Dynamite, Eddie Kingston got a win over Lance Archer. There was some cheating involved. Jake Roberts got beat up on the stage, some brass knucks. But this week, we're going to try to eliminate those things. We got a lumberjack match, Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer. And Travis, I'm going to start with you.
I'm going to go Kingston here to kind of even the score out so that they're 1-1. I think Eddie has the opportunity to be able to pay off and or be able to get more of the lumberjacks on his side than Lance with his attitude. So that's what my thinking is on that match.
Okay. John DeConnie.
I'm going to go with Archer here just because I think after what happened last week, he will be even more of a maniac than usual. So might as well see it pay off.
John Smith, does everybody die? Or, I mean, that's an obvious question. Everybody does die, but what do you think the outcome of the match is?
I think Eddie Kingston dies.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Lance Archer as well. So Travis, 3-1. So if you, let's see, Karl also picked Lance Archer. So either you're the only one getting a perfect pay-per-view or you're knocked out right away.
Nobody would love with the Mad King except me.
That's right. Well,
I guess if it was a debate, you guys would all flip, though. If this was just Mike versus Mike.
Oh, yeah. But you have to give Archer Jake Roberts. So
that's fair.
You know. John DeConnie, we saw the debut of Ryan Nemeth on Dynamite last week. He had a match with Hangman Page.
We sure did. Yes, Ryan Nemeth, or as I Mini Ziggy. He looked great. Very, very athletic, obviously, although there were times in the match where I wasn't sure exactly what he was doing, specifically his 10-second but felt like 3.5-minute handstand when he had Page on the ground. I wasn't exactly sure what muscle group that was supposed to be working. But these two had a nice back and forth match. Wasn't terribly long. In the end, Hangman hit a discus forearm followed by a big clothesline that gave him the time to go outside so he could set up for the buckshot lariat for the win. He gets the 1, 2, 3, and then afterwards he gets a visit from the biggest carny in AEW, Matt Hardy, who offered him his locker room because he thinks it's sad watching it.
Yeah, and nobody wants to change in the hallway outside catering, right? But you have to. Do we think anybody think that Hangman's going to take him up on this, or do we just watch him go to Dark Order?
I think Hangman's going to
think
solo for a while.
Yeah,
We see somebody come riding into the ring on a horse. I don't think we're going to see Hangman anywhere by himself for right now.
yeah, lonely cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
Lonely cowboy. So Darby Allin and Sting, they admit to being hoodlums, and then Team Taz shows them how to be hoodlums by beating up the merch guy. All that's leading to their AEW Revolution street fight coming up at the beginning of March. And on the subject of AEW Revolution, Red Velvet stood up to the plate to volunteer for a mixed tag. So we got another match announcement for Revolution in March. It'll be Cody and Red Velvet versus Shaq and Jade. Presumably, I guess we haven't actually seen an official announcement, but the challenge is out there. Furthermore, Britt Baker on this show got a win with the lockjaw over Shanna, and that's Britt Baker's last stop before facing Thunder Rosa at Beach Break. So now we have to pick Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. So I'm going to start with John Smith. Who do you think?
I like Britt Baker. I think she's gonna get help and she's gonna win.
Do you think that the winner and the loser both end up in the tournament, or do you think that the winner gets a shot at Shida and the loser ends up in the tournament?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think they both end up in the tournament because I think they both belong in the tournament.
Yeah. Okay. Travis, what do you think? Britt Baker or Thunder Rosa?
I'll take Britt Baker as well because I think Britt versus Shida is something that we've been waiting a long time for at this point. And it's really nice to see two AEW women fighting for the title. I don't think we're going to see Britt in the tournament. I think we're going to see Britt versus Sheena, and I think the tournament finale might be on this. I think they might do tournament finale on Revolution, depending on how the timing is, and I think you might see the other women's match be for the title. So that's how I think it's going to get booked. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the timeline, but that feels like two women's matches easy to do on a pay-per-view when they only run a couple a year.
Yeah, that timeline or that scenario seems to make sense to me. John DeConnie, I think it'll be, I'd have to check the dates, but I think it's about a year since Shida kicked Britt Baker in the face and gave her that bloody nose that made Britt Baker's t-shirts go crazy. We got Britt Baker in this match, or you got Thunder Rosa?
You know, I think maybe both wind up in the tournament, and I wasn't thinking that until you brought it up. So I switched my pick. I think maybe Thunder Rosa gets the win here, and then they meet up again in the tournament. Britt gets the win on her way to winning the tournament and face Cheetah.
Oh man, that's an excellent point. And the great news is I have the good fortune of going last and listening to all your arguments and then making my own. I'm gonna side with John DeConnie on this. I really like that argument. Al Karl says Britt Baker. So,
what does he know about AEW?
Well, when we get to the tag team battle royal, I'll be interested to see if you have the same comment.
Okay.
But Travis, Jericho and MJF defeat the Varsity Blondes. It's a Judas Effect with a little extra lion salt there.
Judas Effect catches Griff, or catches Brian in a perfectly executed lion salt for no reason. The kid was cold on the mat, like it was over. So he just did it for style points and for some Outlaw Mud Show fans, I think, on that move. So it was executed well. He had a great picture on social media of his 6-pack that he's got working on his stomach now too. So yeah, pretty good match overall. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I think the Inner Circle the reigning tag team champions of the Inner Circle, putting away these two young guys is not a surprise to anybody.
I believe Excalibur made the call completely unnecessary for the Lionsault.
Absolutely.
And sticking with Inner Circle, Sammy Guevara and MJF, they're just not getting along at all. And we'll get back to that when we get to the Tag Team Battle Royal. But first, let's see. Who's talking about Jungle Boy versus Dax? Who took that match?
John DeConnie, I believe.
John DeConnie.
Sir.
Break that down for us. That's a heck of a match.
Absolutely, yeah. So we had Jungle Boy versus Dax Harwood. We had Luchasaurus outside, handcuffed to both Cash and Tully to make sure there was no interference. We had Dax kind of take a shoulder bump early in the match, so he was favoring his shoulder a little bit throughout. He did manage to hit a very impressive shot bomb at one point for a 2 count. These two, some great aim wrestling, rolling through pinning combinations back and forth. And when we got towards the end here, we had Dax hit an O'Connor roll. That was for a 2. Jungle Boy kicked out and used it to roll up Dax, but then immediately transitioned into his snare trap submission, which of course put an awful lot of strain on that injured shoulder, and Dax was forced to tap out. So we get Jungle Boy, the big singles victory here. And then afterwards, we had a little bit of ridiculousness on the outside. Cash and Tully were in the process of getting unlocked from Luchasaurus when we got a little Fuji action, a little powder to the face of Luchasaurus, which led to a Jungle Boy beatdown while Luchasaurus was trying to rub the powder out of his eyes. Tully hit the spike pile driver on Jungle Boy while Dax and Cash held him up. And eventually they chained Luchasaurus to the ropes and were able to cut the horns off his mask. 65 million years of evolution down the toilet.
Unbelievable. Do you think they were after the ivory and the horns? I mean, what's the deal there?
It's got to go for a pretty penny.
I would think so. Now, when they threatened Jungle Boy's hair, though, boy, did you see the locker room unload? Luchasaurus doesn't need his horns, but man, don't you dare cut that gimmick off Jungle Boy's head. I think in the grand scheme, this must continue. And it may in the Tag Team Battle Royal. And John DeConnie, I'm going to go right back to you and have you pick this match first. Not all the teams are featured here. Let me take the ticker down because I have not pictured. We got Uno and Grayson, the Acclaimed Private Party, Top Grayson, Proud and Powerful. So we got a busy match here. Who do you got, John DeConnie?
It seems like it's leaning towards the Young Bucks being able to pick their opponents, but just for the heck of it, I'm gonna pull one out of and say to further the storyline of the growing aggravation in the Inner Circle. Sammy Hagar takes the win here just to aggravate MJF and Jericho.
Okay, interesting pick. Travis, who do you got in this?
I'm going to take Young Bucks. Sammy Hagar, it's not right now. So we're going to go with the Bucks. And I think the Bucks are going to pick the Good Brothers to wrestle ultimately at the end of this thing and really, stick their nose up in the air to everybody else, including FTR and we got 10 tag teams here and we got another 6 or 7 of them on the sidelines. So they could have done 2 team battle royals with AEW easily. But it doesn't make sense to me for any of the other ones outside of some combination of the Inner Circle I could see, but Bucks seems like the obvious pick for me. So I'm just going to say that's my pick.
John Smith. Private Party has an upcoming tag team title match against the Good Brothers. If they get a win here, they're going to get a tag team title match against the Young Bucks. Any chance? Is that your pick?
No, I'm not picking Hardy's Privates to win this one. I've got I'm going with the obvious choice too with the Bucks, only because it's for points, and it's really hard to pick this one. If it wasn't for points, I might pick the Good Brothers to actually come into this match and win it somehow. But I mean, just they're not advertised, and I don't want to pick a team that's not even in it. So I'm going with the Bucks.
Yeah, I will be picking the Bucks as well. Karl picked Sammy Hagar. So,
Wow.
so he is with you, John DeConnie. You must be seeing something that we are not. By the way, the reason I didn't know who was doing the Jungle Boy and Dax is because actually, according to my notes, Dax was actually going to break that match down for us, but he canceled on me last minute, I guess. So
It's probably the snow.
yeah, exactly. Travis,
I call collusion between John and Al on that Sammy Hagar pick.
It does sound like they were doing some maybe free conversation beforehand, or they know something a little bit between the lines for sure.
yeah, that's some monopolistic behavior, especially when I bring this back up.
I know. Look at that, trying to lock everybody out.
Oh,
I think I might need to consult the official rule book for PWP to see if that kind of thing is allowed. But,
Now, if the Alcaro pick was announced beforehand, I would say that was John DeConnie hedging if I didn't know any better. But good on him.
the Travis, the Good Brothers, and the Young Bucks, they got the win over the Dark Order with a pin over Stu Grayson, which surprised me.
Yeah, Stu takes the pin here. Man, what a it was a standard 3-act match, right? Act 1, we've got Dark Order getting in a whole lot of offense ahead of time. Act 2 was the Young Bucks and Good Brothers sort of taking it home, and Act 3 was everybody from the locker room that has a great gripe with the Elite or the Bullet Club or whatever they happen to be calling themselves right now, coming out to really get some work in. Phoenix came down to disrupt the Good Brothers celebration and immediately piled on to everybody in the ring, and then Mox hit the ring too, and then out comes our Winnipeg favorite, not from North Carolina, but Kenny Omega, who tries to kick Mox, then he gets paradigm shifted. That's what it's called on this show. Running the match clean and quick and left laying, which is interesting because how strong they've kind of had Kenny the last couple of weeks since he's put that strap on. But he didn't have Don Callis with him, so he didn't have his standard go-to to kind of, give him his ice pack or anything to rub it down afterwards. So interesting finish.
Always
the most invisible hand there, invisible to even to the cameras on that one. So I don't know if you had some Alexa mojo working or not. I thought it was a fine match. Dark Order has been a much bigger presence since the Brody passing and stuff like that, and not to the detriment of TV or wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Like all of those guys that were in that match could go. It was nice to see them be able to go against Bucks and Good Brothers. Bucks and Good Brothers is an interesting 4-man team because you have such a difference in style, right? So if you want to speed the match up, you can get one of the Jacksons and they can speed the match up. If you want to slow it down, you can throw the Good Brothers in there too. So it was kind of this nice recipe for good all-around wrestling.
Absolutely. And we go forward this week. We have the Good Brothers back in action. We have Moxley back in action. We have Kenny Omega in action. John Smith, what's up? You raised your hand. What's up, John?
doing a frozen
I hear
mimic.
nothing right now.
Okay, well, we're all speaking, so we're going to let John Smith figure that out. I'm going to bring up the John DeConnie and Travis, you can hear me, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, good. John Smith is in the process of working out his issues.
I can hear you now, but for a good 5 seconds, I couldn't hear you. I thought nobody could hear you. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, well, here is our final match for Beach Break. John Moxley said there's always drama with the Elite. He doesn't know what to think about Pac or Phoenix, but he does love a good 6-man. So we've got this match, Pac, Phoenix, Moxley versus Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, maybe the Bullet Club, depending on who you ask, not Jay White. John Smith, start with you since you're back and running.
I'd love to see Pac, Moxley, and Phoenix take it, but I don't see it happening. I think Phoenix takes the pin from any one of the three, probably from a Magic Killer. Who knows, though?
Okay, I got a feeling, Travis, that we're headed towards Moxley and Omega at Revolution for a rematch. How do you think this match goes, and does it support my feeling there?
So I think that's not unreasonable, but I think that based on what happens in this match, it's going to be a 3-way dance, and I think we're going to see Omega, Moxley, and Pac in that match.
Okay.
I think we're going to see an implosion on the Moxley Pac Phoenix thing, and there's going to be some nonsense outside between Moxley and Pac. And I would agree with John Smith that Phoenix is going to get hit with the pin here. And I think the three of those guys, those other guys that I mentioned, are going to be outside of the ring brawling with each other to go into Revolution in a three-way.
Okay. John DeConnie, is this your line of thinking also?
Along the same lines, not necessarily that the Moxley team implodes on itself, but that they definitely take the loss here. I don't see any blemishes on the Bullet Club ticket right now. So give me Omega and the Good Bros.
Yeah, it'd make it unanimous. I have them as well. Just to bring up our match card for Beach Break, the thing we didn't talk about is the wedding of Penelope and Kip Sabian. You guys might have not been anticipating that I would ask, but start with you, John DeConnie. Will she say yes?
I believe she will. They seem to be quite enamored with one another.
Okay, John Smith, will she say yes before she gets put into the cake?
Yeah, I see this not happening by the end of the segment somehow, but not because either her or him don't want it to. I think there's going to be somebody coming in and making their voice heard.
Travis, does Orange Cassidy or Chuck Taylor get the girl here?
I think Orange Cassidy might come out of the cake, but I also think there's an outside shot that we see Joey Janela screaming from the back saying that this wedding can't go on, with some old hard feelings, and Sonny Kiss and him maybe come out and try to put the squash on Miro and Kip Sabian, because I think that'd be an interesting tag team match for no other reason. But yeah, poor Chuck. Maybe we'll see a three-way dance and it'll be Chuck and Orange. I don't know as Orange will have much to say.
Maybe a jester.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's Beach Break. Travis, we're going to be sending you home, but do you have any parting words before we go?
Nope, it's a pleasure as always to get to shoot the wrestling jargon with all you boys. So have a good rest of your evening.
Good save. All right, thanks, Travis. All right, guys, so here's one problem. I don't have the background for the three of us, so we're going with that. Apologize, but that's what we got tonight. We're going to go to NXT next, and we've already talked about the Dusty Cup a bit, but we're going to finish that conversation. And John Smith, I'm going to start with you and chatting about the men's Dusty Cup. We had two matches, MSK with Killian Dane and Drake Maverick, and we got GYV with Kushida and Leon Ruff.
Yeah, well, the show started out with the MSK match versus Drake and Killian, and I would say that the match went a little too long for what it was, but I think it's because it was the first match, and that's the thing they got to try to keep eyeballs on. If it ended early, then you'd be switching over to the other guys, and I mean, I think that's the only way that NXT counter programs with AEW. I don't think they make decisions on angles or anything as like according to the presence of AEW on the same night as them, but I definitely think they plan their shows out that way. So the match went a little long, but MSK showed a lot of good double team moves, just quick tags. There was some good double teams by Killian and Drake, which is basically just Killian using Drake as a weapon, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Drake takes the pin from the spine buster bulldog combo that MSK uses, and they're on to the next round. About halfway through the show, you get the Grizzled Young Veterans going up against Kushida and Ruff. Now that one could have went a little bit longer because that was such a good match, and they match up so well, and you can never get enough Kushida. The great double team moves by Grizzled Young Veterans in a completely different way than MSK. Your great ground based, hold the guy in your corner kind of tag team wrestling. Ruff got beat up for quite a bit, and Grizzled Young Veterans come out with the victory, just as we all expected.
Absolutely. So we're caught up on the Dusty Cup there. We had a couple of other little things happen at the end of that GYV Kushida Ruff situation. We've got Johnny Gargano coming down. We've got Dexter Lumis presence. Seems like he's got his eyes on Austin Theory. We've had a little backstage with that as well. So most likely we got our North American Championship match for TakeOver maybe is Kushida, and then Dexter's got something going on with Austin Theory. We have a couple matches for the Dusty Cup this week to continue the tournament. We talked about it a little bit at the top, but we'll start here, guys. We've got Thatcher and Ciampa versus the Undisputed Era. And John DeConnie, you haven't had a chance to speak on NXT yet, so we'll start with you.
Okay, this one is real tough to pick for me because I know the Dusty Cup has a little bit of a history of throwing together tag teams moving forward. So I'm kind of tempted to go with Ciampa and Thatcher, but I think the Undisputed Era takes it here just because, well, they're the Undisputed Era.
Fair enough. John Smith, anything to add there? You think that's going to go the other way?
Well, the winner faces the grizzled young veterans. I think they're going to have the GYV beat the Undisputed Era to give them like some real good credibility moving forward. So I like the Undisputed Era to win this one and maybe even have like this little team up with Ciampa and Thatcher come to a quick end. Maybe they go right back at it and we get some sort of now real blood feud moving forward towards the Valentine's Day NXT takeover.
Well, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to pick Thatcher and Ciampa, and I think I'm going to say this little tandem might have a longer relationship than that, and maybe they'll pursue tag team titles. I think they might be better together than apart. So that's how I'm going to weigh in on that one. But we also have Legado del Fantasma versus the Lucha House Party, and Gary made the joke earlier that the Lucha House Party had no chance. John Smith, start with you this time. Legado del Fantasma or the Lucha House Party?
Yeah, the House Party has no chance. As much as I would love to see them up against MSK, I'd like to see the opposite even more, and the Legado to go up against them next week.
Okay, John DeConnie, what's your thoughts? Does Lucha House Party have a shot here, or are we all thinking they're gone?
I think they have a shot, but let's put it this way: if points were on the line, I wouldn't pick them. I think it gets back to moving forward in this tournament with the guys who are actually in NXT, and I think either one would be a fantastic match with MSK, but I think it's going to be Legado.
Yeah, I'm thinking actually Lucha House Party here. I'm going to pick them, and then I'm going to pick them to lose to MSK. I could be wrong on that, and probably am, but that's where I'm going to lay down my chips this week. So, okay, moving up next. So we had a pre-taped promo from Scarlett. She's flipping a tarot card around in her hands, and she says, "Fall and pray." And that card came back to haunt us later in Santos Escobar's dressing room. So I'm thinking Karrion Kross didn't take too kindly to glass jaw and all that stuff. John Smith, you're clapping because I know you want Escobar in the main event picture. Kurt Stallion, he was taken out in the backstage. Regal got mad. He rescheduled the match for this week, so we got to pick that match. But when we pick that match, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the Karrion Kross situation, and is that going to be a destination for Escobar immediately? John Smith, go ahead.
On your show last Thursday, I said, last week I said Stallion had no chance at winning this match. But that was last week, and that was before Karrion Kross was involved. And last week on your show, I said I like Escobar to lose this title this week and have it be because of either Scarlett or Karrion Kross making their presence felt or even known in some way. And then I think Escobar versus Kross is the next program where, Escobar is going to get his ass kicked. But I think everything that happens leading up to the bell ringing is going to be incredible. I can't wait for it.
John DeConnie, will Kurt Stallion or Santos Escobar fall and pray?
I really love that idea by John Smith that he'll somehow cost him the title here. Once again, if there were points on the line, I wouldn't take that. I'd still go with Escobar, which that's what I'll say here. But boy, would that be entertaining! So I'm almost in the back of my mind now. I'm going to be waiting for that and kind of hoping that it happens.
Yeah. So your formal pick Stallion?
And I'm going to go with Escobar just because I'd rather be surprised with that whole other thing unfolding.
Okay. All right. Well, John DeConnie, keep us going. We have a Bronson Reed and Isaiah Swerve Scott match to talk about.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we had Bronson Reed and Swerve Scott, where Reed quite early in the match took a suicide dive to the floor that kind of left me speechless for a moment. While he was out there, though, Reed ran his shoulder into the post, so he was kind of favoring that, and Swerve was working on it for the rest of the match. Later on, we had Bronson Reed take Swerve up for a stalling suplex, left him hanging there for a moment, then thought better of it, brought him back down onto his shoulders into a fireman carry and hit a Death Valley driver. The shoulder issues allowed Swerve to get a hammerlock DDT from Bronson sitting on the turnbuckles down to the floor, and then down to the mat, I should say. And then Swerve hit a 450 splash that I, for a moment, thought, oh my God, he's going to take this one. But it only went for 2. And shortly thereafter, Swerve slapped a taste out of Reed's mouth, woke him up a little bit, and the Auxilla then delivered a headbutt and the tsunami for the win.
Yeah. Bronson Reed gets the best of that one. Now, Tyler Rust, he had a match as well on this show against a guy who we didn't get to see a nameplate. We didn't get in-ring introductions. We just got a beating down. His name is Rijos, I guess. Tyler Rust got a win. Malcolm Bivens a lot happier than he was the week before. But John Smith, the Dusty Cup continued on the women's side with Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez with their match with Jessie Kamea and Aaliyah.
Yeah, this was a little bit shorter of a Dusty Cup match. Usually they let them go pretty long, but I believe it was just about 6 minutes. And, Jessie Kamea and Aaliyah didn't really mount much offense. They got their stuff in, you would say. But other than that, they didn't really take control of the match. It was, Raquel Gonzalez just being too much for them, and then Dakota Kai capitalizing on weakened opponents. And, Raquel does that is it a power bomb? Is it a choke slam? I don't know what it is, but even if you don't want to take it, you're taking it because she just lifts your leg and picks you up, man. And it looks devastating, and then nobody has anything bad to say about it. But then when somebody like Nia Jax does something very similar to Mandy Rose or whoever it was, she's considered the most dangerous person on the roster.
Well, Nia Jax is one of John Smith's favorites, so she always gets the
big
benefit.
old 69.
Here's our update. I mean, I showed these at the beginning of the show, but here's our women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic updated bracket. I like Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter to win this thing. I like Candice Ray and Indy Hartwell. I picked Indie Wrestling at the top of the show, so I'll stick with that. But the other thing we have is we have a takeover coming up on Valentine's Day. And there was a bit of a brawl on this show last week between Mercedes Martinez, Toni Storm, and Io Shirai. Toni Storm ends up holding the belt high at the end, but we have since learned that there is going to be a triple threat match at TakeOver for the NXT Championship. We're not picking that match today. We will certainly talk about that when we get closer, but John Smith, title change?
No title change.
John DeConnie?
I would say no title change just because what was the point of War Games if it's not going to be Raquel?
Yeah. Yeah, until Raquel gets her match against Io specifically, because she pinned the champion, it feels like we need to wait. So I agree with you both. To finish off NXT, though, John DeConnie, we had the main event. Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor got the win over Lorcan and Birch. Does Balor stand with the Undisputed Era was the question after at the end, I think.
It almost seemed like he did for a second, and then he realized what he was doing, and as we saw, he backed out of the ring and let the Undisputed Era kind of off with Lorcan, Birch, and Dunn. So it seems like he's purposely taking himself out of that. If McAfee should show back up and we need another 4-on-4, clearly they seem to have each other's backs. I just don't think they necessarily like each other.
Yeah.
But in terms of the match, we had they only got about 10 minutes of ring time, and it clearly could have gone at least double that because there's a lot of talent in that ring right there. We had O'Reilly still nursing that jaw injury throughout most of the match, and Lorcan and Birch actually controlled most of the action until quite late in the match. O'Reilly got the late hot tag and caught Birch's drop kick attempt and turned it into a leg lock for an almost immediate tap out and submission victory. And then, of course, as you said, Pete Dunne attacked. There was a 3-on-2. Dunne broke Balor's fingers as the Undisputed Era, was hanging out just outside the ring. And eventually they ran Dunne, Lorcan, and Birch off. And Balor stood with the UE for a moment, then kind of backed out. It was kind of an uneasy alliance there. Not quite a friendship, I would say.
Right. Yeah, agreed. John Smith, John DeConnie, anything else on NXT before we close this chapter of the show?
Their names are Borkin and Lurch.
Borkin and Lurch, of course.
Duly noted.
All right. So next up on our agenda is Impact Wrestling. And guys, how many Impact fans does it take to put up a light bulb? Both of them.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you. Matt Cardona and Josh Alexander, they got a win over Ace Austin and Madman Fulton last week, which leads us directly to a match this week. Josh Alexander and Madman Fulton in a singles match this week. And John DeConnie, as the senior Impact correspondent, what do you think? Both 0-0 this year.
I'm going to go with Madman Fulton to get him on the board here. I don't really know what the point of this match is and where it's going, so I don't really have a good feel for it. I'm going to go with Madman Fulton just to take the big man in this situation.
John Smith, do you think we have a Josh Alexander, Matt Cardona permanent team here, and are they going to help out? What do you think's going on there?
I don't really think it'll be permanent, but maybe just for the time being. But I think Josh Alexander is going to lose this match. I think he's going to have like some sort of losing streak, or just he'll be in a rut for a while now that he's singles. Like he doesn't know what to do with himself. Maybe.
Yeah, make it unanimous. I got Madman Fulton as well. So here's a little something for us to speculate upon. Rohit Raju was looking for someone to be his helper on Impact. He has a match with TJP this week. So any theories, guys, on who TJP's helper could be?
Rohit's helper?
Yes. Sorry, Rohit's helper.
No, not me. maybe Hornswoggle.
All right. Well, John DeConnie, how about who do you think will take the match?
This is the non-title match here, right? So I'll go with Rohit pulling one out of here so that he can then argue for a title match, just because Rohit entertains me.
John Smith, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'll go with that.
Yeah, unanimous for me too. I'm not going to go the other way on that. I think we're all onto something there. John DeConnie, run us through this Brian Myers DQ win.
Yeah, not a whole bunch to it. They got into it last week when Myers was poked in the eye during his match with Falaba, I believe. And Eddie was already in with the doc. Myers came in demanding some attention for his horribly injured eye. And the doc took one look at him and went like, "You're fine. Take off." That led to some words between Myers and Edwards, which led to a match last week. And after just a couple of minutes, Eddie appeared to lose his mind again, like he did a couple of weeks ago. We touched on the crazy Eddie Edwards character, and then he seemed to come back down to earth for a couple of weeks. And he lost his mind in the middle of this match, jammed his thumb in Brian Myers' eye, bit him on the face, and took the DQ.
There you have it.
Where they're going from there, no clue.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know if this is going to be an extended feud or not, but one thing I do know is that Larry D is mad. He's mad about the ring rust spell that ultimately led to him getting arrested for murder. This week, we have Larry D. He's going to be facing Rosemary's Decay stablemate, Crazy Steve. And does he get some modicum of revenge, John Smith?
I hope so. Larry D's probably my favorite guy in Impact, so maybe I'm betting with my heart here, but I'm going with Larry D.
All right, John DeConnie.
Yeah, I have to concur. I think he is very angry over everything that happened. He already knocked out Crazy Steve last week. Now I look for him to do it in between the ropes and at the 1, 2, 3 because of it.
I'm going to go the other way. I think I'm going to pick Crazy Steve, and I'm going to say this Rosemary situation is not done. So we'll see what happens there. But an exchange of words between Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo in backstage, it led to another match this week. Unfortunately, I do not have a Susan graphic still, but I do got Sue Young, and I'm thinking they're the same person, so we'll just throw them up. Jordan Grace and Sue Young, John McConney. Or Susan.
Yeah. Geez. I'm gonna go with my girl Jordan, but I think there's a very good chance that Susan, especially if she comes to the ring with Deonna and Kimberly, finds a way to get a squirrely victory here.
Okay. So he picks Jordan, John Smith, but then gives a justification for Susan to win. Can you tie break the multiple personalities that we have coming out of John DeConnie in the bottom half of the screen?
Well, I'm going with Susan for the exact same reasons he said, and we all know he just took Jordan because he's in love with Jordan Grace. That's nothing wrong with that. But let's just hope Jordan doesn't touch Susan inappropriately again.
Oof. I hope not. I will also pick Susan. So we have 2 votes for Susan and 1 person who logically reasoned that Susan will win, but couldn't bring himself to pick Susan to win. But as expected, Havoc and Nevaeh made a mess of Fire and Flava Festival. So this week we have Tasha Steelz facing off against Havoc. And there's our match. So, John Smith, I'll go back with you first this time.
I like Havoc to get a little retribution for losing the tag tournament.
Yeah. Havoc is a force to be reckoned with, and without help, John DeConnie, I don't know if I think that Tasha Steelz can get the win here.
Yeah, I think Havoc takes this one, starts to give her the argument towards getting a title shot with her and Nevaeh going after those knockout tag titles.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, Matt Hardy, he's taking credit for Private Party's big win. Of course, they'll be back again this week on Impact. No major predictions to do there or anything, but John Smith. Finally on Impact, we have Tommy Dreamer getting a world title shot for his 50th birthday. If only all of us could be so lucky to get a title shot for our birthdays. But all of that stuff led up to a big 8-man tag match to close the show on Impact. It was Moose, Ken Shamrock, Chris Bay, Sami Callihan versus Rich Swann, Tommy Dreamer, Willie Mack, and out of nowhere, the Third Rascal.
Yeah, Trey Miguel's back. The show started off with Rich Swann just giving Tommy Dreamer a title match at No Surrender. And Sami Callihan had something to say about it. Then Chris Bay had something to say about it. Then Moose had something to say about it. Then Willie Mack comes out to try to cool things off between everybody. Then Ken Shamrock gets himself involved. So then backstage they're told by what's the guy, Scott D'Amore, that he's got a partner for the three of them, and then their face light up when he opens the door. So we're left wondering for the rest of the show who it's going to be. It's Trey Miguel. Trey Miguel has a fire under his ass because he did not look like the Trey Miguel that I've seen briefly since I've started watching. He was a lot more intense, and that rightfully so. They gave him the pin at the end of the match, which was a really nice move he pulled off the top rope. I forget exactly what it looked like, but I remember being impressed by it. So I'm thinking that maybe they might have promised Trey Miguel something in the near or distant future, and he's coming out, with a whole new attitude.
Well, that could be true. It leads to another match now. Trey Miguel not booked on Impact this week, surprisingly. We had a full lineup here, but up and down, 6 matches. Trey Miguel is nowhere to be seen, but we do have Rich Swann and Tommy Dreamer teaming up to face Moose and Chris Bay. John Smith, I'm going to go right back to you since you broke everything else down for us. How about this match?
I like Moose and Chris Bay to win this. I like there being some sort of something that happens between Swann and Dreamer just to get us a little more interested leading up to their match in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think John Smith's on to something, John DeConnie. And ultimately, is it really Tommy Dreamer, big important match without it being old school rules? Are we going to have a rift here that gets us there?
Yeah. I think something's got to happen to give us a stipulation for that February 13th match. So, yeah, let it start with Tommy taking a beating from Moose and or Bay, and I think Moose and Bay take this one.
So here's another option I'll throw out there just for kicks. Does Moose beat up Tommy Dreamer so much that he can't wrestle? And then we have Moose taking that spot.
Yeah, I mean, I said last time we talked about it might have been on the Daily Wrestling News show that I don't think we've seen the end of this booking. At the end of that segment that opened the show, Swann said, all these guys came out and made their case, and he said, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's already booked. Scotty booked it. It's me and Dreamer. End of story. I don't think that's the end of the story by the time we get to February 13th.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, guys, it's main event time. We've gotten through all our Impact and our NXT. We've done Dynamite, New Japan, MLW, NXT UK. We've been all over the globe. And we come back home, and it's time to Rumble. It's time for the Royal Rumble.
Monday Night Raw?
What's that?
Monday Night Raw?
Well, Monday Night Raw comes after the Rumble, so it's...
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, we will actually talk about Raw after the Rumble. So I'm considering this conglomerate of WWE main roster as the main event. So
I got you. You said main event, and my thoughts went through my mind. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I'm going to put this to you then. Kane made his 18th Royal Rumble appearance as Kane. But why can't Kane light a fireplace?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, because he loses all his matches. I told you guys the hits were not going to stop coming all night. So
you should have stopped with the last one. The last one was gold. I got
one more good one that I think is pretty good. So we'll see. But all right, John DeConnie, pre-show match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, they got their belts back.
They sure did. Yeah, this match, as you said, took place on the pre-show, and I almost missed it. I'm glad I did. It was a pretty good match. About a little less than 10 minutes into it, Flair's music hits. He causes the distraction. And while he's causing the distraction at the top of the ramp, Lacey makes her way down and around. Charlotte had locked in a figure 8 on Shayna, and Lacey reaches in, grabs her arms, and breaks the bridge, releasing some of the pressure, et cetera, et cetera. Then Rick makes his way down to ringside, hands Lacey his Hall of Fame ring, and when Charlotte goes back into the figure 8, Lacey reaches in while Rick distracts the referee and cold cocks Charlotte. The women's right. Charlotte is out cold, but just for good measure, Shayna tags out. Nia comes in. Old number 69 drops the leg drop, rolls Charlotte over for the win, and we have new women's tag team champions.
Boy, that Lacey Evans is so hateable right now, isn't she?
100%.
Really hitting her heel stride, if you will. Her high heel stride, if you want to do it downwards. So the main show opens with Drew McIntyre and Bill Goldberg. Now, Goldberg and McIntyre got a hot start. McIntyre did headbutt and a spear. Things went to the outside. Goldberg put McIntyre through the barricade. All of that's happening before the bell even rings. But they do get back in the ring. Goldberg ran directly at McIntyre as soon as the bell rang. Drew hit a Claymore. Goldberg ducked another second Claymore. Goldberg hit 2 more spears. McIntyre kicked out. Goldberg lifts McIntyre up for the jackhammer. He hits it, but Drew kicks out again. And then Drew hits a final Claymore for the pinfall victory. 2 minutes and 32 seconds, about a quarter of the time than the previous match on the pre-show. So Drew McIntyre is still your WWE champion. Sasha Banks and Carmella John Smith.
Yeah, I mean, this one went basically how we all thought it would. A little bit of involvement from Reginald, but not too much. Carmella looking good. Sasha looking like a formidable champ. Hits her with the Banks statement for the submission victory, and it looks like everything's lined up for Sasha Bailey at WrestleMania, right?
Well, I thought so. But what happened in the Royal Rumble?
Well, Bailey comes out first, which I thought was actually a good thing because they've been talking about people coming out first and winning. They've been reiterating that in their promos leading up to it, and the days beforehand also, and it just wasn't the case. Bailey lasted about half the match. She got Charlotte came in 15th, and she got eliminated shortly after Charlotte came into the match. Bianca Belair entered third, and it turned out that this whole match was basically about her. What do you got? There was 6 NXT women that entered the match. There was Shotzi, Toni Storm. We all saw those 2 coming, most likely. Santana Garrett, we did not see coming at all, or at least I didn't. Rhea Ripley, of course. Dakota Kai, which we all thought Raquel Gonzalez of that tag team was going to be the one that would get a shot in the Rumble, but I liked seeing Dakota Kai in there. And then Ember Moon, who, is NXT, but main roster also because, she's been around for a while. She's been everywhere at this point, but she's still NXT because she's there now. But we also got 5 legends, which I didn't really like to see because, they got enough talent now that you don't need to be bringing back people like Jillian Hall, Victoria, who was great at the time, but, did not look very good now. Tori Wilson, who looks younger than she did when she was in the WWF back in the day. Mickie James, who I guess is technically on the main roster now, but I consider her more of an old school legend type at this point. And then Alicia Fox. So, I mean, I have no problem with that just because we get to say Alicia Fox every time she comes out. Rhea Ripley had the most eliminations, 7. Shayna had 6, Shayna Baszler. and Nia Jax and Bianca Belair both had 4. Other than that, everybody else that eliminated somebody only eliminated one person. So it really was just about Bianca Belair. Charlotte and Rhea and Natalya were the other 3 of the final 4. Comes down to Rhea and Bianca. I seen a little picture / meme on the internet of Bianca Belair's feet touching the floor a little bit when they were both sitting on the apron. So maybe they'll make something of that and leading up to WrestleMania, but I doubt it. But Bianca won. I guess she deserves it a little bit, but I'd rather her have won next year. I'd rather us be all clamoring for her to get that shot. But instead, it's just like, yeah, she's got a good look, she's got a good gimmick, and she handled herself well in the ring. Yeah, let's throw her right into the WrestleMania match. It's like, I'd rather see the build-up. Back in the day, we all wanted Stone Cold to win that Rumble so he could get that title shot. It wasn't like Stone Cold happened and then 2 months later he gets his title shot. We need that build-up, and I think that's something that they've been lacking overall, not just in this gimmick, in this instance.
I think last year the Drew McIntyre build to the Rumble was very good. I think a lot of people share that thought with you on Bianca Belair this year. Although, they have been pushing her and pushing her and pushing her, and she's not failed on any of those. It's just been a shorter build than I think what a lot of people are looking for. Any of the other NXT talents really stand out? I don't think there was any defining. It's hard to get a defining moment in the Rumble, but of course Rhea Ripley looked good. But I think that was also very intentional, right?
Yeah, shot Blackheart, shot Billie Kay with a cannon, or tried to at least. But yeah, I think Shotzi's on her way up to the main roster sooner than later. After Rhea's the next call up, I think it's Shotzi after that.
Yeah, Shotzi has a real character that I think Vince could sink his teeth into. You mentioned Jillian Hall, and I didn't love that myself, but the Billy and Jilly stuff was, the comedy that we got in the match. So I was okay once we had that. So John DeConnie, anything to add on the Women's Rumble? Any pluses or minuses or anything else you want to bring up?
Just that I 100% agree with John Smith's take of this was, it's not a disaster. It's not like Bianca's not very good in the ring, but it just seemed way too soon. The better story to tell would have been Bayley somehow screwing her over at the end and dumping her out, even if she was already eliminated. And, those two have been in a feud, et cetera, et cetera. I just thought, it could have led to a triple threat at Mania between Sasha Bayley and Bianca, or Bianca could have just held off, if they want to, strap the proverbial rocket ship to her, it could have at least postponed her to SummerSlam. Just seems to.
Do you guys have thoughts on who she'll challenge at WrestleMania? Because we've got a lot of space between now and April. It always, when you come out of the Rumble, you always feel like, okay, here's the champion, here's the challenger, let's go. But that's really not always the case. Some titles could change hands. She could lose the opportunity. Anybody, you guys feel like she could lose the opportunity between now and then, or would that be a mistake?
I hope that doesn't happen. I don't like when they do that, but I think right now, one of the champions perhaps is going to change because, Sasha's technically a face, and they almost never do face versus face, even, less than they do heel versus heel. So I don't think we know who the 4 participants in Mania are going to be right now.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that she's definitely going to challenge Sasha, because I think it's gonna be like the I look up to you, I see you in me type of angle, where it doesn't have to be face versus heel. It could be like a respect thing, and then eventually it gets heated in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania.
Does Bayley get in that equation, or is she out?
I don't think she gets involved. I think Bayley will probably end up maybe winning the battle royal, the battle royal. That's gotcha. at WrestleMania or something.
Okay. Well, John DeConnie, we've got 2 other matches on the card we should get into. We are going to probably run up against the clock tonight, so jam-packed show. Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I'll try and go through these two a little quicker than I normally do. This was one of those matches where the best thing I can say about it is that, considering in my mind there was a 100% chance of what the outcome was going to be, I give so much credit to Kevin Owens. I almost said Kevin Smith. Kevin Owens for making me doubt for just a second and think he might pull this off. These two were brutal. They beat the hell out of each other inside the ring, outside the ring, all around the ring, with the ring steps. They got up into the monitors there. They got up into the top deck of the monitors before Owens would take a big fall through a set of tables. Then they worked their way backstage. Owens got Sammy Guevara with a golf cart. And then in a moment that I thought was going to be the ending, Kevin laid Roman out on a table and then went and got a pallet jack. And I saw him missing. He was climbing it. It was clear he was going for a big splash or a big senton off the top. I assumed Roman was going to get up, and then Roman was going to use the pallet jack to pin him to the ground, and that would be the 10 count. Did not happen. He hit senton, put Roman through the table. They went back towards the ramp. They staggered around, wound up back out by the side of the ramp, the stage, and Roman started using a pair of leg irons, the handcuffs with about a foot of chain in between them, like brass knucks, and again beating the hell out of Owens. Owens eventually got him out of his hands and used them to chain Reigns very low on the lighting stanchion. And this is the moment where I said, oh my God, this could happen, because the count got to about 8. And, I was waiting for Roman to just power out of him, turn over the lighting stanchion. It didn't happen. What Roman did was grab the referee, who was right in front of him, and yank him past him and run him headfirst into another lighting pole or something and knock him unconscious. And it was a little bit of a botch here, but they had Heyman come out and free him. And eventually Roman would jump into a guillotine. Kevin Owens would go to sleep. He would not answer the 10 count. Your Universal Champion, and still Roman Reigns.
Long match, not too long, about 20 minutes or so. But when I finished watching this match, I thought to myself, Kevin Owens, incredible worker. He did these high spots, falling off tables, jumping off forklifts. Everything looked safe. Like, I wasn't worried at all that these guys were going to be, dead afterwards. So I give a lot of credit to Kevin Owens. I think he's top talent. He's as good as he is, and as much as everybody likes him, I think he's still underrated.
Yeah,
even after all that. And I think he's our everyman. I think he's every wrestling fan's everyman. I think he should be on top myself, but I digress. We have the Royal Rumble to close the show. Big night. It's our one of our favorite matches of the year. We spent a whole podcast talking about it, basically. So, John DeConnie, what are the highlights?
All right. So we found out, I guess, the night before that Edge and Randy Orton would be entering at 1 and 2, which already made me start worrying for having Edge in the final 4. But they had a story to tell, and I should have just shut up because I was bitching and moaning right from the start. These two, they battled outside the ring even before it started. You had Sammy and Mustafa Ali come down at 3 and 4. And at one point, you'd have all the heels 3-on-1 beating up on Edge. Jeff Hardy was next. And Edge, and the most important part was that Edge and Randy would eventually roll back out of the ring, beat the hell out of each other outside some more. Edge hit, what's it called? The Edgecution, his DDT on Randy on the announce table, and then went medieval on him with a chair, injuring his leg. And Edge would eventually rejoin the Rumble, and Randy would be walked off and disappear for the next about 50 minutes. So we had a couple surprises getting back to everything. We had Dolphin at 6, Nakamura at 7. Jacked up Carlito was a little bit of a surprise at 8. Xavier Woods, Big E, Morrison, Ricochet, Elias, Damian Priest made his debut at number 14. We had Miz come out at number 15, and on his way to the ring, he would destroy the DJ setup left behind by Bad Bunny because Bad Bunny did not want to hang with him and Morrison when they went and found him backstage. We'd get more payoff on that a little later. We had Riddle out at 16, Daniel Bryan at a nice, comfortable 17, and I was really feeling good about my pick at that point. We had Kane come out for his 18th Rumble at number 18, followed by King Corbin, Otis, Dom Mysterio, who Corbin immediately started beating the holy hell out of, until Dom wound up on his shoulders and used an electric chair roll to eliminate Corbin, and Corbin lost his mind outside the ring. Bobby Lashley was in at 22. We had a little surprise at 23 with the Hurricane. He tried his patented double choke slam on Big E and Lashley simultaneously. That did not work out very well for him. He was shortly thereafter eliminated. Christian would come in at 24. We'd have a little moment where ENC would reunite in the ring. AJ Styles came down at 25. Almost didn't come out with him, but I guess followed him shortly thereafter because he would save him from being eliminated at least twice in this match, and in fact help eliminate 2 men while not actually being part of the match himself, that being Omos. We had Ray come out at 26, Sheamus come out at 27, Cesaro 28, a returning Seth Rollins, our savior, was back at 29, and the Beast Braun Strowman out at 30. Getting down to the very ending, we had a final 6, although we would realize shortly thereafter it was 7. We had Edge, Christian, Rollins, Braun Strowman, Daniel Bryan, and Riddle. What we didn't realize was that Randy wasn't done for the evening. So we had Rollins stomp and eliminate Daniel Bryan, breaking my heart and ruining my day. We had Riddle jump over the top rope for some reason and run the side of the apron, hoping to deliver a kick to who was it that was on the outside? Maybe Rollins, but it didn't matter. Strowman cut him off with a punch, and it was Rollins because Rollins then stomped him on the apron, and he fell to the floor, eliminating Riddle. Rollins then recruited Braun, as they being the new generation, were going to take out what looked like the last 2 guys in the match, Edge and Christian, and Strowman considered it for about a half a second before punching Rollins. We had Braun then he started to get pulled over the edge, pulled over the ropes by Edge in what was starting to really look reminiscent of Big Show getting pulled out by Chris Benoit back in the day. And then Christian would help out, and then Rollins would come from out of nowhere and try and dump everybody out. Edge held on, but Christian and Braun went to the floor. It was down to what looked like Edge and Rollins. Edge would get the upper hand and eliminate Rollins, and just about as he was about to turn around and point at the WrestleMania sign, RKO out of nowhere, and he picked Edge up, kind of grabbed him collar and waistline and was ready to toss him right out. Edge reversed it at the last minute, sending Randy over the top rope to the floor. Your 2021 Royal Rumble winner, the Rated R superstar, Edge.
And I want to ask, did either of you 2 guys have Edge in your Final 4?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I did too. So we all had him in the Final 4. No, none of us picked him to win, but surprise win. I like I said, none of us picked him to win. I don't think any of us really thought that was the guy, but there he is. And then when we go straight into Monday Night Raw after this big win from Edge, and there's this big exchange between Drew McIntyre and Edge. Drew wants to, congratulate Edge. He's proud of Edge, all that stuff. But Edge has not made his choice. Edge has not made his choice yet. He did not declare that it was going to be Drew McIntyre. And in fact, we have breaking news just recently hit the web that Edge will, in fact, be on NXT tomorrow. So that's an interesting turn of events. I don't know why. The thought should have registered based on last year when we had Ripley involved in WrestleMania. But Finn Balor and Edge is a nice match. It was not on my radar, but that's a more attractive match than the others, I think. So
yeah, that's a D tease right there, though. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree, but John Takani.
Yeah, I think Edge is just going to make the rounds here because I don't want to say it's too good to be true. It's too weird to be true. Like to have Edge go from 1 to win it, only to turn around and go after the NXT belt makes even less sense than making Edge win the Rumble to begin with.
Well, Fox has also announced him on Friday. So he is going to make the rounds this week, and then maybe he'll show up next week and tell us who he's going to pick. But still interesting, at least to an extent that we have Edge making the rounds and at least getting us to think about an Edge versus Balor match, which I do kind of think would be kind of fun. John, thank you for breaking down the Rumble. That in the past, we know we saw the debut of Priest. We got Carlito back for at least 1-2 nights. We also saw Hurricane Helms, and Christian is a big story coming out of the Rumble. Apparently, he was cleared days before the Rumble, and he is expected to be a part-timer. We don't know in what capacity or where, but he is back for all intents and purposes, I guess. So I mentioned already the whole Edge situation with Drew McIntyre. They had that segment in the beginning of Raw, but that didn't end with anything but Sheamus hitting a bro kick on Drew McIntyre, right? Sheamus comes down and he says, Edge, what are you doing? Respect Drew McIntyre, blah, blah, blah. Edge leaves. Drew watches him walk away, and when he turns back, there's a bro kick right in the face. So finally, after all this time, we've got our Drew McIntyre and Sheamus match, although it seems kind of weird to happen between now and WrestleMania, but I guess that's what we're getting. So
this is everything that I was saying was going to happen with Sheamus winning the Royal Rumble, but without him winning the Royal Rumble.
There you go.
It's like I was right to a point.
Yeah. Before we continue on Monday Night Raw, though, Rob Van Dam and Sabu get in a car. Who's driving?
The police.
The police. Yeah. I thought that one's pretty good. I popped when I read that one earlier. All right, we got a little bit of time left here to get through Monday Night Raw. We're going to take an abbreviated version here. So, John Smith, why don't you tell us what the Hurt Business was up to, and I'll make some edits here on the list.
Yeah, well, at the beginning of it was the first match of the show. We were getting Riddle's U.S. title match against Lashley. I was a little excited for it, but we didn't really get much of a match because Lashley threw the Hurt Lock, a.k.a. the full Nelson, on Riddle, while Riddle was on the ring apron with his back to the ring on the outside of the ropes, and Lashley was on the inside of the ropes, so the ref did his 5 count, then started trying to rip Lashley off of him before he rang the bell, but eventually it was a DQ win for Riddle, which does not obviously allow the belt to change hands. But then Lashley then went and put the Hurt Lock back on him on the outside, and to the point where MVP got involved and got in his face, and it was like a real moment for a second. You thought maybe Lashley was going to do something to MVP. And then he went right back to Riddle to just show everybody that not even MVP can make me stop doing what I want to do. And later on in the show, you get Shelton Benjamin and Cedric defending their titles against the Lucha House Party. And you hear MVP just still putting Bobby Lashley over. Like, I just didn't want him to end up in court. I didn't want him going to jail. I think they put him over real well for the eventual actual match between the two, make us care about it more. Shelton and Cedric got the successful title defense against the Lucha House Party, and during that match, I actually felt like the House Party might win for some reason. I don't know why. I think it might have just been like how well they booked the match.
Yep.
But for a second there, I thought that they were going to win the titles. So big ups to them. Maybe one day you'll get some tag championships somewhere. They're really using the Lucha House Party as their resident. I don't want to say jobbers, but they haven't really been winning anything lately.
Yeah, except the opening round of the Dusty Cup. But yeah. So John DeConnie, I'm going to ask you to summarize the main event here, but I'll get us there, and then you hit the main event. So Randy Orton had a promo early in the night. He basically said Edge is not going to be main eventing WrestleMania. He didn't think that's Orton. Orton did not think it was possible that Edge could return and win the Rumble. And in fact, the fact that Edge proved him wrong was an embarrassment and insulted him. So he's going to be taking it out on Edge. Edge has a promo later in the night, and he says, Randy's just a black cloud over me and my family. And John DeConnie, it leads us to our main event with Edge getting his win.
We had Randy passing Alexa Bliss on the ramp during his entrance, and Randy was so focused on this match, although Alexa kind of stopped to say hello to him, Randy did not even make eye contact, just kept on going to the ring. We had Edge mention earlier that I spent 58 minutes busting my tail in the Rumble, and Randy only spent 8 minutes in the ring. Well, that showed through very early in the match because Randy focused on Edge's ribs, basically trying to take the wind out of an already kind of injured, worn down soldier, if you will. Edge did manage to hit the execution early on. Randy sent Edge shoulder first into the post. Back and forth. Randy had the upper hand for a good portion of it, but Edge, gave as well as he took for most of it. And then we got to the point where Randy went for an RKO, and Edge countered it into the Edge-O-Matic. Orton would kick out. He would look to hit. He was setting up for his next RKO. He was kind of backing himself towards the corner, waiting for Edge to get up. And we heard kind of music box music, a little rockabye baby. And, I'm sure the temperature in the room probably dropped and got a little creepy. And he turned around, and there was Alexa, who I guess wasn't happy about being ignored on the way up the ramp. She's sitting on the top turnbuckle. There's blood oozing out of her mouth. Randy has no idea what to think of what's going on, but the distraction was just enough to allow Edge to hit his spear for the victory. And that's how the show ended.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we had a few other matches on the show that night. We had Mustafa Ali. He continues to have issues with the New Day, specifically with Kofi Kingston, although Xavier Woods got a win over Ali on this show, a little bump in the road for Ali. Damian Priest got a win over The Miz. Edge gave Damian Priest a little bit of a rub in the back, congratulating him on his performance the night before. But Bad Bunny showed up on Miz TV, introduced Damian Priest as the friend who wanted to be on the show. Damian Priest would go on to defeat The Miz. Naomi and a returning Lana got a win over the team of Charlotte and Asuka and the team of Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Again, some more Ric Flair, Lacey Evans nonsense in here. Naomi and Lana are now #1 contenders for the tag titles. And we also had Caribbean Cool Carlito and Jeff Hardy teaming up to beat Elias and Jackson Riker. Hardy hit the Swanton to finish off that match. And finally, the precursor to that main event that John DeConnie just talked about was Alexa Bliss making pretty easy work of her good friend, Nikki Cross. She had multiple outfit changes during the match, but wanted to summarize the rest of Raw there and get us on the way here because we are running out of time. So, guys, anything else on Raw that's real important that we need to focus on here before we get out of here?
I hope that Carlito sticks around because he looks better than he ever did, even when he was first in the company. And this a fun fact, Damian Priest was the only NXT man in the Men's Rumble, if you even want to consider him an NXT guy, because he was making his debut on the main roster technically.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of things before we get out of here. We have a Jim the Anvil Neidhart giveaway. Let me move this thing out of the way so we can see it. If you'd like to win this Jim the Anvil Neidhart autograph picture, courtesy of Sideline Sports and Memorabilia, all you have to do is go to this video on YouTube. The link to the YouTube video should be on the post you're watching this from. Hit the subscribe button, RKO the notification bell. Make sure to comment on this video with hashtag EWPAnvil. We'll be announcing a winner when we hit 200 subscribers, so make sure you stay tuned for when we're announcing the winner. Also, the Prime Time Rundown, powered by StreamYard with Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca, is now airing at 6 p.m. on Friday nights. So tune into that to get everything in the world of sports. And start your morning with our newest show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. It's with me every Monday through Thursday, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Eastern Observer. And join us back here next week for episode number 40, right here on the Eastern Observer. And guys, that's a wrap for the night. Anything to get us out? Anything before we get out of here?
I would just like to lodge a complaint. I was under the impression that Travis was going to do the thing. I wore my cleaner T-shirt. I'm very upset that Travis did not do the thing. But it was great to have him along. Always great to have him along.
Great. I was supposed to. When he bid us adieu, he was supposed to go good night bang, and he did not do the thing. Complaint lodged. So, John Smith, anything else before we go home here?
Just glad it stopped snowing after 8 hours of shoveling.
Yeah, well, I'm glad for you guys too. I don't have the problem here. So, all right, John DeConnie, take us home.
All right. Thanks for joining us. And as always, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors.
See ya.